Hola, humans! Welcome back to the Comic God Podcast. I am Trudell, the Comic God, and this is the second episode. So I'm happy to have you here, happy to have you listening. If you came back, I really appreciate it. And what I usually do here is I'll go into news segments, and then I'll go into hot takes, and then I'll do my creator quote. So, my hot take for today is that mythology is an untapped resource. And then I'll just get into how cool I think mythology is, and I ponder why it doesn't do better in terms of like people adapting it and making new stories, whether that be anime, comics, manga, cartoons, movies, and video games, and how it could be so much better used. And not just in the ones we know, but the ones we don't know too, because there's a breadth of story out there that we just, it'd be so nice to see. So buckle up, and I hope you enjoy. Let's start the show. All right, so to kick off the news segment, I want to talk about Star Wars Visions. First of all, I want to talk about how I didn't even know it was out. I seen nobody talking about it. I seen nobody covering it. I have a lot of people just on my YouTube home page talking about, oh, what's coming out, oh, this Marvel thing, oh, this is coming out, but nothing, no one was talking about Star Wars Visions. And I went to Disney Plus one day and I was like, oh, okay, I wonder what's there. And then I seen Star Wars Visions. I'm like, oh, okay, it's coming out soon. I clicked on it, all the episodes were out. So obviously, as a Star Wars fan, I got hype and then didn't watch it for some reason. I don't know why I didn't watch it, but it looks beautiful. I love the idea. I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch that. I'm gonna watch that. It's just maybe too busy. I don't know. Till I finally watched it, and I absolutely loved the first episode. The first episode, beautiful. It was like a old Japanese samurai look and feel. It was absolutely awesome. And then I watched the second one, and that was a cute, nice little story. And I watched the third one, and I think that was done by the same people that did Kill la Kill, which is an anime, if you guys don't know. And it just looked really nice. If you're a fan of Star Wars and haven't watched it yet, I'd say go check it out. It's on Disney Plus. Not a sponsor, but if anyone wants to tell them about me and they feel like sponsoring, I would not be angry. um, but I enjoyed the three episodes that I watched, and I absolutely love the idea of Star Wars Visions. How they just went to animation studios, Japan. I'm pretty sure it's all Japanese animation studios, and we're like, "Hey, do you have an idea for Star Wars?" And they just made it like that. It's absolutely beautiful idea in my opinion. And as someone who has written and drawn many Star Wars fan fictions, this is like a seeing that actually come alive. Obviously, it's not my ideas, but it's just things happening in the Star Wars world that's not a part of like the regular Skywalker saga or branches off into that, because it's all been very similar, obviously, and I loved it all. But so far, this is just really cool. So I don't know. I'm just super happy about that, in my opinion, and I'm happy. I'm gonna be so happy to watch the rest of it whenever I get time. The next story I want to talk about is Arcane. It's an animated series that's coming to Netflix, and it's made by the same people who made League of Legends, and I think it's an offshoot story from League of Legends. And I don't play League of Legends, so I'm not super invested in it. But I seen the trailer, I'm like, huh, that looks interesting. And then I seen the world and the animation. The animation is beautiful. I'm pretty sure it's 3D, but it has like a painterly look to it. I love that vibe, and it looks kind of like a dirty magic steampunky esque vibe, and I think that is wonderful. I just really like how it looks, and I like the animation. I don't know if they usually use that animation style for like their video game trailers and stuff like that. I'm not sure, but I'm really into this, so I'm definitely gonna at least give it 2 or 3 episodes because it looks cool and the story looks interesting. I know League of Legends is a big property. Literally all my friends play League. I'm the only one not. Like they'll have parties and I'll come over early and then a bunch of them are just there playing League and I'm kind of just in the corner like when are we going to play Smash Bros? I'd rather play that. I'm gonna beat you all with Link. But but yeah, I know it's a huge property, and I think it's just gonna be cool and interesting. So I'm definitely gonna give that a shot because it looks absolutely beautiful. The main character looks pretty cool. I'm not necessarily sure what the story is, but it looks really awesome to me. And it looks like there's magic. It looks like there's like interesting sciency stuff, and I live for that meshed vibe. So I'm gonna watch that. Another thing I'm gonna watch as soon as it comes out is The Witcher. The Witcher season 2 is coming out soon. I really liked the first one. The first one confused me a little bit at first, like how it was telling its stories. It kind of had like a weird time thing going on. And I was like, what the hell? What's going on here? And then once I figured it out, I was like, oh, all right, okay, this is what's going on. But I'm excited for this one because the last one was really cool. I seen that hot witch is back. I seen and honestly the magic side of it was pretty cool. I live for anything magic. Magic is always awesome in my opinion. So give me more magic and I am a happy kid. Also the lady, the white-haired lady, seems the kid. I don't know how old she's supposed to be. The princess girl, she's out there. She's training. She's doing interesting stuff. So I'm just intrigued to see it all. All right, now this one really excited me because I did not know it was a thing, but it's Super Crooks. And what it is a bunch of people with superpowers basically want to do a heist. And I am in for that. All in for that. Plus, it's by Mark Millar. And I love his stuff. He's the same guy who did Kick Ass or Nemesis or The Magic Order. And I have a bunch of his comics on my shelf. So I'm looking forward to this because he's a great writer. Oh, and Jupiter's Legacy. He did Jupiter's Legacy, which, honestly, Jupiter's Legacy came out on Netflix a while back, and it didn't do well. They canceled it, which I thought it was pretty decent. It didn't follow the comic, but I was kind of, at first, I was like, one of those guys, like, oh, this isn't like the comic. What's going on here? And then I actually I actually just paid attention to the story, and I ended up really liking it. And it wasn't the best thing in the world, but I think a second season could have definitely been really interesting, especially because I know where the story ends up going in the comic. So I think that could have been really cool, but I don't know, it's kind of unfortunate. But that's not what I'm supposed to be talking about. Super Crooks. It looks really cool, and I'm excited. It's animated. Like I said, a bunch of superheroes or not superheroes, a bunch of super villains, I guess, planning a heist, and that's very fun. And seeing it through their eyes, which we usually don't do. It's usually the heroes thwarting them. This looks just like it's going to be a really fun series to me, and I am real happy about that. The art style looks amazing too. I love the art, just everything about it. I'm going to be psyched for. So I'm gonna be surprised if this isn't talked about in a similar vein to Invincible. Probably not as much, but around that. So I'm just really hyped for that. I think out of all of the things I talked about, maybe barring Star Wars, but it's the most. I'm the most excited for that because it looks so awesome. Plus, I'm definitely. I have to get the comic now because I didn't even know this guy makes so many comics. It's crazy. So I didn't even know it was a thing. So that's definitely a comic I have to pick up. Probably after I watch the series. Probably gonna wait on that one, but I'm psyched for that. Alrighty. Now it's time for my hot take. So, my hot take this week is that mythology is an untapped resource. Now, what I mean by that is when it comes to storytelling, I think mythology is used shockingly little. Even when it comes to the mythology that we all know and love, for example, Greek mythology, it's not used that often. And if it is, the characters are usually the same ones, right? You got Zeus, you got one of Zeus's sons being the protagonist, and then you maybe have a god or two helping that one out. I don't even think we have one of the biggest myths that doesn't feature Zeus's kid is, or one of Zeus's kids is Theseus and the Minotaur, and I don't even think we have a proper movie for that. If we do, let me know because I'll watch that today. But I'm pretty sure we don't. The IPs I know that are Greek mythology based are like the Clash of the Titans series, God of War, which now ventured into Norse, but I'm going to talk about Norse mythology in a little bit. Hades, which is a great game, by the way. I've been playing it for too long and it takes up way too much of my time. I absolutely love that game. And I found out that Zagreus was actually a god. I thought it was a character they just made up, but it's a god that was in one of the myths when they were trying to find the perfect character to feature. Um, that's fascinating. If you haven't played Hades, I say go play it. I'm pretty sure it's on all consoles at this point. I have it on the Switch specifically, so I could just play it handheld. It's just easiest for me that way. But I'm getting off topic. So, God of War, Clash of the Titans, Hades, the Hercules, the Disney's Hercules, which I also love. That I grew up loving that movie, and the show too, actually, because it became a show. And what else for Greek mythology? For all the stories, there's a few Hercules movies as well, but they don't mention the gods before the pantheon that we know about. They don't mention the gods beyond that either, right? They don't mention any of like the more like the first gods, the more interesting mystical ones. There's so many stories that they could use from Greek mythology that they just don't. That would be great for comics. It would be great for cartoons, movies, book series. Actually, one big thing that I forgot is Rick Riordan. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, but the guy who did Percy Jackson, he makes great use of the Greek mythology. I don't know why I didn't put him in my little list there, but and Greek mythology is in comics every now and again, but not in any good way to be featured. Like Wonder Woman is from like Greek mythology with the Amazons and stuff, but sometimes Ares is in there, but the gods are barely there. I don't know. That's a tangent. We don't need to go down. I'm praising Rick Riordan because he is actually the one who got me to read with Percy Jackson. I absolutely love those books, and then the series after that, I forget what it's Heroes of Olympus. Great. Magnus Chase, great. The Egyptian one for me fell a little flat, but it was still good. I still read them all. So he makes great use of mythology. And all the quote unquote like famous ones, Egyptian, Norse, and Greek, I think those are the three ones that are at the top when it comes to being used for stuff. But there's so much more mythology that doesn't get any love whatsoever. Greek mythology, there's so much more you can do with it. I was bored one day and I was like, I wonder if I can make like an anime-esque story about Greek mythology. And I looked into it for a little bit and then I was like, the rise of Zeus would be a great story. How he was hidden away on this island and how he had to become powerful enough to beat his father and then, or at the very least get his siblings back from his father's stomach because his father ate them as they were babies. It's such a it's such a great story. And then after that, once he gets them back, how there was an actual war. It follows a great anime flow. So I might do a little write up on that one day and present it on my channel somehow. I don't know how, but there are a lot of stories that just kind of blow past everyone when it comes to Greek mythology, when it comes to all mythology, but specifically Greek, because it's used in, okay, Zeus is the king of the gods, and we're in ancient Greece, and XYZ is happening. Probably Zeus's kid needs to go on a quest, or some demigod needs to go on a quest. And it follows that very basic rhythm when there's so much else to do. Now, if we're speaking about Norse mythology, I think the average person only knows like 3 to 4 gods at best, and there's so many out there like Thor, Odin, Loki, and depending on what you're watching, Sif maybe, but I don't even think that. Probably just Thor, Loki, and Odin. And there are so many, and those are like the main players, but there's so much more to that, and the world is so much bigger, and it's weird and interesting, like how Loki's children are not one's a one's a goddess, and then two of them are animal giants. That's pretty crazy. Can we do something with that? Um, I don't know Norse mythology as well, so it's going to be hard for me to just like pull out story ideas for Norse mythology, but it's really cool. And the giants are weird, and they have like their own little magic system. And Thor will go on adventures all over the place. It does mainly feature Thor, but there's a lot more that are very important. Balder, Tyr, all these people that don't get much love. Even though they were, again, bringing up a god of war, Balder was the first, like, antagonist, and Tyr was mentioned a lot, and he's gonna be in the next in God of War 2, which I'm so excited about. I can't wait till that game comes out, because I'm still playing the previous one that came out like what 3 years ago. Wonderful. Anyways, Norse mythology is cool. They have weird weapons and how everything functions and how Odin came to be. All that is really cool. Let's get a story on it, right? Whether that be a book or I would really like honestly a cartoon like a or an anime. An anime would probably be best, like a Dragon Ball esque. Like it's funny sometimes, it's serious sometimes. That would be great in my opinion. All mythology has some awesome aspect of it that could be featured, and not just from the ones we know, the like I previously mentioned, the big three, the Greek, Norse, and Egyptian, but all over the world they have some really cool interesting stuff, interesting pantheons and how they worked and how they came to be. There's a few like West African. There's no a West African one. The Yorubans have a pretty cool godly pantheon that you can make cool stories. The Japanese and Chinese, like there's a bunch of Asian mythology that would be awesome that we get a little bit. Like I know there's a game either out or coming out. The titles it's based off of the Journey to the West, like Sun Wukong or something like that. I don't exactly remember. Anyways, because I don't know all that much about them, I can't really come up with scenarios how they can get cool adaptations, but I do think people from those areas should definitely lean into that every now and again, because I know for sure that I would pick it up, and I'm positive that other people would pick it up too. Because one, there's a wealth of knowledge. The story building you have to do is not as much as if you made up your own thing entirely. And it's interesting, and you already kind of have a fan base, right? Because if you have people who maybe grew up hearing that, and you have people who are just interested in, for example, the Greek stuff and want to hear more about mythology, it's easy to adapt because it already has a story format. Every mythology that I've heard is this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and you just fill in a little bit of the blanks, and you have a perfect story. So I just think that's really cool and fun. And in all of them, all the stories I've heard, they've had comedy, drama, and action. It's all perfect. So, and they all come with their own magic and power system too. Just weird things that the characters are just able to do off jump. For example, Thor has lightning. Any incarnation of him has a hammer and lightning. You could figure out how that all works. For example, a fun thing to play with would be the Norse god. I'm pretty sure need these golden apples, right? I don't know if that's in every rendition. I heard that somewhere. But there are things that the gods eat that will either prolong their life, or only the gods could eat them for a certain reason. And you could just play with that interesting thing. I know they're in Journey to the West. Is he the Monkey King? The Monkey God? I think that might be the same as the Sun Wukong. I'm a little spotty on my Chinese mythology, but I'm pretty sure they have golden peaches, pears, something of the sort. They have a golden fruit as well that make you immortal, right? So it's just cool playing with those. And if you really want to go into it, you could mix them too and see how maybe all of them relate, and how would that even work, right? How are you king of the gods here, but there's a whole another faction of gods over there? Ooh, like territories and stuff? That could be interesting, like a god war type deal. I don't know if that's been done. If it has, again, let me know in the comments or whatever. Reach out to me at Tradell the Comic God and tell me if you know any of these properties or adaptations that I'm just not aware of, because I love that stuff. I'll read it all day. But I just want, at the end of the day, I just want more people to adapt these cool ancient stories, right? Because it keeps them in circulation, it keeps cultures alive, and you get some awesome stories from it, right? With honestly not that much work. And you could adapt it in a way where it is more work, and maybe you add another genre or style to it. Greek mythology in a steampunk world, what does that look like? That's weird and interesting. I'd watch that. I'd read that. That's cool. So it's an untapped resource that I really like, and I think there really needs to be more of. So if you're a creator out there wondering what the heck should I do, pick up mythology and use other cultures and stories as a jumping off point, as a resource, as a, what's the word I'm looking for? As motivation for that story, because I think that's awesome. I think that's why they're there, in a respectful way, of course. Don't be disrespectful, because I know some of them that are really cool are still like prevalent within their own culture. They're still believed in and worshiped. If you're taking from someone else's culture, it's great to be respectful. Obviously, don't be disrespectful with someone else's culture. That's rude as all hell. But I think the stories are there for a reason. They're told for a reason, and I feel like if you do it right, the people would be honored and think that's pretty cool. That you made something of it, that you did something of it, that you're getting what they believe in, what they care for in the public eye. And I think that's really cool. It's a lot of I thinks. Should research that. But because I know some people wouldn't be about that, going into some ancient stories and ancient mythology and ancient beliefs. definitely make a cool thing. And some of it is so awesome and ridiculous that's fun to play with. I was listening to a mythology podcast a few days ago, and Thor was challenged to drink out of this cup, and he's like, "Yeah, of course I'll drink out of the cup." And he was struggling. He was really struggling, and he couldn't do it, but he got about half the cup down. The person who challenged him was like, "What the hell? I drew the water that I drew for that cup was from the ocean, and you finished half of it. How?" Right? So that is wacky and crazy and doesn't make sense. You're not going to see that anywhere. So just fun, crazy, awesome feats of strength like that are just so interesting to adapt, and there's a wealth of that stuff. So I know I kind of reiterated the same thing many times while I was talking, but I just really think it's cool. So yeah, go make that, people. Get this podcast to the right ears and get them to go make some cool stuff out of old mythology around the world, from the ones known and unknown. Mostly unknown, because that's what I want to see, because there's some weird, cool, fun stuff out there that will get people trying to research the original things. Hell yeah, that's really all I want. Okay, now it's time for this week's creator quote. This week's creator quote is from Yoshihiro Tagashi. He's the creator of Yu Yu Hakusho and Hunter x Hunter. And I absolutely love Hunter x Hunter. It's easily in my top 3 favorite anime. It is so good. So, the quote from Yoshihiro Togashi: "You should enjoy the little detours to the fullest, because that's where you'll find the things more important than what you want." Now, I really like that quote because I feel that it's true. I feel that I feel like where you find the things that end up being most important, you don't really expect them. It's not necessarily where you were going. And you could see him and you could see he really believes that with the stories he builds, right? I know, especially in Hunter x Hunter, that's kind of all over the place. There's a lot of little unexpected things that the main characters go through that you didn't know that that's where it was going, but that's where it makes the biggest changes, right? For example, this is some spoilers, light spoilers for Hunter x Hunter. When Gon went to go find his dad after the Great Island arc, and then he met Kite, right? That's a detour from finding his father, which is his main goal, but that really impacted his life. And that's just one of many examples from Togashi's main story, but I really like that quote, and I think it's good for storytelling because you could have some very important things happen in places that you don't expect, and that is storytelling and a half. That makes an interesting story, in my opinion, right? So I really like that quote, and I think it's true to life and true to storytelling. For all you creators out there, maybe put some interesting stuff, put some little detours, put some interesting stuff in there, put some life stuff in there where you might not expect it, or where the reader might not expect it, because that could definitely make a good story. And if somebody knows how to make an interesting story, it's definitely Yoshihiro Togashi. And that's the show. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you got this far. It means so much to me. I hope to see you next week. And before you go, if you want to see my other stuff, I write. I'm an author and illustrator, so I write and draw. If you want to see any of that stuff, follow me on Trudell the Comic God on all platforms: Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and you could watch this podcast on Anchor and Spotify. Those are the only places right now, but I'm working on getting on all platforms. So, again, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. And I hope I see you next week. Have a great week. Live long, prosper, and peace out.